Max Grayson wasn't your average 12-year-old. While other kids spent their afternoons playing video games or kicking a soccer ball around, Max could usually be found tinkering with old gadgets in his makeshift workshop, a cramped corner of the family garage. It wasn't much, but it was his. With a toolbox gifted by Grandpa Joe and a curious mind that never seemed to rest, Max had already created some interesting inventions. Sure, most of them didn't work. The self-stirring soup spoon was a disaster. But Max knew one thing for sure. Every great inventor started with a few duds. That Saturday morning, however, Max's workshop was unusually quiet. The reason? Mom had assigned him the dreaded task of cleaning out Grandpa Joe's attic. Grandpa had moved into a cozy, assisted living community last year, leaving behind a mountain of dusty boxes and forgotten treasures. "I don't see why I have to do this," Max grumbled, dragging a large garbage bag behind him as he climbed the rickety ladder to the attic. "Because you're the one who keeps saying you want to be an explorer or inventor or whatever it is this week," Mom called from below. "Think of it as a treasure hunt." "Yeah, some treasure," Max muttered under his breath, swatting away cobwebs as he reached the attic floor. The space was dimly lit by a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. Boxes were stacked haphazardly, and a layer of dust coated everything. Max coughed and waved his hand in front of his face. This was going to take forever. A curious find. An hour into sorting through piles of old photo albums, yellowed newspapers, and mismatched knickknacks, Max stumbled across a large, battered trunk tucked in the corner. It was locked, but the lock had rusted so badly that a quick tug with a screwdriver popped it open. Inside, Max found an assortment of strange items: a magnifying glass with 3 lenses, a pair of aviator goggles, and a box labeled, "Joe's Experiments, Do Not Touch." Naturally, Max touched it. The box wasn't particularly heavy, but it rattled when he picked it up. He carried it over to a clearer space, set it down, and opened it. Inside was something that looked suspiciously like an old lunchbox. It was rectangular and metallic, its once shiny surface now scratched and dented. At first glance, it looked like a run-of-the-mill lunchbox from decades ago, the kind Grandpa might have taken to work. But then Max noticed the buttons. On the side of the lunchbox, there were several small, brightly colored buttons arranged in a neat row, along with a tiny dial that spun smoothly under his finger. The front of the lunchbox had strange symbols etched into it, symbols that glowed faintly when Max held it up to the light. The button press. Max's heart raced. This wasn't just any old lunchbox. Maybe it was some kind of secret gadget Grandpa had worked on back in his scientist days. "Cool," Max whispered to himself, running his fingers over the symbols. He turned the dial, watching as a faint blue light flickered from the lunchbox's edges. Then, without thinking, he pressed one of the buttons. The lunchbox immediately came to life. A soft hum filled the attic, and the lunchbox began to vibrate gently in Max's hands. Blue and green lights danced across its surface, and a tiny screen Max hadn't noticed before flickered on. It displayed a series of numbers and dates, some familiar, some not. "Whoa!" Max said, stepping back. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This is not normal. Just as he was about to examine the screen more closely, the lunchbox emitted a sudden beep, startling Max so much that he almost dropped it. "What in the world is this thing?" Max muttered. Interrupted by Mom. "Max, lunch!" His mom's voice startled him, and he quickly stuffed the lunchbox back into the box labeled, "Do Not Touch." He'd explore it more later. For now, it was better to keep it a secret. After all, this wasn't just some old trinket. It felt like the start of something big, something exciting. As Max descended the attic ladder, he couldn't help but glance over his shoulder. The lunchbox's soft blue glow had dimmed, but he could still hear its faint hum as he closed the attic door behind him. If only he knew what he was getting himself into. Thank you for watching and exploring the world of the Time-Traveling Lunchbox. We hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the story and are as excited as we are about the journey ahead. If you're curious about what happens next and want to dive deeper into this thrilling adventure, you can download or purchase the full book using the link below. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. Happy exploring!